council work session to order.
Is his thing on?
Mayor, even I can't hear you.
Okay, how's that? All right, I'll repeat it. I'm going to call the city council work session to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Wilson,
Here.
Vice Mayor Rizzi,
Present.
Councilmember Biggs.
Here.
Councilmember Evans. Councilmember Gremmel.
Here.
Councilmember Nesser.
Present.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Present.
You have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, first item, agenda items. Presentation and discussion of ordinance number 1520, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction, Arizona, amending the Apache Junction City Code, Volume 1. Joel.
Mr. Mayor, you might want to also read the others. We can
Okay.
get this done fairly quickly.
Then the other one is presentation discussion of resolution number 2153, the resolution of the mayor and city council of the city of Apache Junction, declaring a public record that certain documents filed with the city clerk titled 2021 Amendments to the Apache Junction City Code. And presentation discussion of ordinance number 1519, an ordinance of the mayor and city of Apache Junction, Arizona, amending the Apache Junction City Code, Volume 1. This one's by repealing them and replacing them. Okay, Joel.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Back on November 2nd, you did two direction to staff items. One was to increase on the Health and Human Services Commission the membership from 5 to 7 members. The other one was to, if a quorum was in danger during the year for any of the commissions, instead of waiting until October, which is the usual annual appointment period, council would be brought forward the issue at a council meeting, and you would pick from the current talent bank applications, and you would appoint that person so that the quorum would not be violated, because you can't have a meeting without a quorum. So what these documents do, they do exactly what I just said. The first one I'm going to reference is ordinance number 1519. Thank you, Matt. This amends Article 2-11 in its entirety. I couldn't just take the section that talked about the number of members, because the quorum number was also affected when you changed it from 5 to 7. So instead of, when there's a 5-member board, it's a 3 quorum. When it's a 7-member board, it's a 4 quorum. So that's basically what this does. I made some other small adjustments, but essentially this carries out exactly what you directed staff to do. The other ordinance, which is 1520, you read that with resolution number 2153. And because that document is a little more complicated, your direction to staff did not say, we want you to amend the following sections, because there's a whole bunch of them regarding health, regarding commissions. So it's multiple sections that we are actually amending. That document is another document that's also in the attachments. And that document is the actual document that includes the amendments. And those deal with the boards and commissions. I could go through it, but I'm not going to go line by line. But what it does, it says if there's a quorum problem that we foresee because of a vacancy and has gotten below the quorum, we will bring it back to you. You will then decide to make an appointment or not based on the talent bank applications that are in existence at that time from the previous October. The ordinance 1520 adopts by reference these amendments, and that's to save on publication costs because it is a bit lengthy. And then the resolution declares the document a public record. That's all I have.
Okay, do we have any questions for him? Okay, seeing none, and I think it's, is that on the
It's
consent
on,
agenda
yep.
for this coming meeting?
It is on tomorrow night for public hearing because you have ordinances and you have to do public hearings when there's ordinances and the
Okay.
resolution. So that's on for tomorrow night. We wanted to bring it to you as quickly as possible, and we did.
Yes.
I don't know if this kind of goes hand in hand, but also just stricken the question of the,
Yes,
anything
So that's
involved.
already happened.
that's a,
That's a,
That's
City man-
administrivia,
that's an administrative item which the city manager has already taken care of.
okay.
so that's done.
Okay, seeing none? All right. So we'll move on to the next one. Presentation discussion on, okay, I lost my place here. Presentation discussion on employment agreements for associate magistrate and judicial assistants. Judge?
Oh, are we going out of order?
You missed
You're on.
it.
We can
Number
do it.
4.
We've,
Mr. Mayor, it's number
Number
4.
four.
Oh, okay, I still skipped one, okay. Presentation discussion on the item for draft zoning ordinance amendments to allow carports to be constructed in zero setbacks. Rudy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Rudy. I'm the planning manager. This is an item for possible direction to staff. The question is, should we allow zero setbacks for carports located in front yards in medium-density single-family zones? As cases sometimes do, this came to us as a result of a code compliance situation where a person had built a carport all the way to the street right-of-way in the front yard, and also all the way to one of the side setbacks. Code compliance contacted the citizen. They took it down. A few weeks or a few months later, the citizen put it back up. Of course, no permits. Code compliance contacted them again, and the second time around, the person has sought a way to try and keep the carport in the front yard. And also possibly through a council direction to staff to change our codes to allow for zero setbacks for carports and possibly other structures in front yards, either all the way to the edge of the right-of-way or to also possibly a side property line. So the question came up, what is the rationale for setbacks? Well, typically in single-family zoning districts, you have a home more or less centrally located on a property. There's space around the home, front yard, backyard, side yards. These are basically to allow for space, light, and air between homes, distance, gardens, play areas, private spaces, noise buffers, fences, other types of improvements, perhaps mechanical equipment, perhaps utilities, septic tanks, and which are common in Apache Junction, sheds, and possibly, if there's enough room, you know, building expansions, other types of building expansions. And typically, single-family homes are different from townhomes, row houses, condos, apartments, which typically have no space between them. Maybe they have small yards or balconies, things like that. But typically, that's where you would find the minimal setback or the zero setback types of living arrangements. The options that we looked at was, of course, compliance. That's the thing we always strive for and are successful most of the time. Also, possibility of applying for a variance, taking the request to the Board of Adjustment. However, under Arizona law, there are strict criteria that a Board of Adjustment must observe when considering a case, and of course, the main criteria is that a situation is not self-imposed. So yes, a person could apply for a variance, but that might be a tough way to go. Another possibility is to maybe talk with some neighbors, for this gentleman to talk with some neighbors and maybe initiate a plan development type rezoning for a larger part of that neighborhood. By the way, this is an older neighborhood. The lot sizes are typically I think, around 6,500 square feet. Most of the homes in the neighborhood satisfy this central location, yards all the way around. By the way, there have been a couple of other code cases in the same neighborhood with the same issue, and in the other two cases, the property owners cooperated with code compliance and took down the unpermitted structures. Of course, the direction we're considering tonight, council directs staff to change the code to allow for 0 setbacks for carports. The person could also proceed through code compliance and take his chances with the court. And, you know, of course, the least likely option is find a property that suits your needs, that has the space and the lot size you need to accommodate the types of amenities that you would like on the lot.
Rudy, real quick, you
Yes.
talk so fast
Yes.
that we got to really focus in on you. The 6,500 square feet, real quick, can you tell me, is that a third of an acre? Give me a size.
It's about a little less than a quarter of an acre.
Okay,
An acre is typically 43,560 square feet. So a
Typically.
6,500 square foot lot is about a little less than a quarter of an acre.
second question. This carport, you don't have pictures, do you?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so, but the next question that I had was, was it built with like cement and wood, or was it like one of those kit type things?
It appears to be a pretty substantial metal carport where I believe that there are
Okay.
metal posts
Okay, so-
anchored into the ground, and then there's a roof structure on top of it.
Okay.
Doing some rough measurements on our internal GIS program, it's about 474 square feet in size.
Okay, so it was built, it wasn't a kit that they went?
no, it's not
Those
a
little
kit, yeah.
things that fly away?
Right.
Yeah.
And this is the example here. I took away the address and the street number, but this is basically it right here. The original house, of course, is here. These are later additions. This is a utility alley. It's not a dedicated alley. It's a utility easement, 6 feet on each side of the property line. And here is the structure in question. These yellow lines roughly represent the property lines. They're not exact. They're pretty close, but they're not exact. So once again, we see that this particular structure is just at about at the side property line, and also right about to the street right-of-way line. And you know, I didn't include a larger neighborhood shot, but looking at the two houses next door, you know, everybody's more or less set back where they need to be, and this structure is, you know, kind of stands out in the neighborhood. We did a small sampling of other cities. Basically, I asked our interns to look at 9 of our neighboring communities for medium density type lots defined as 5,000 to 10,000 square foot lots. You know, Chandler, Gilbert, do you guys allow carports at a 0 setback in the front yard? Without exception, all of those were no. And without exception, they also did not allow carports in side yards. Now, there might be cases, for example, in a planned development type of neighborhood where we might allow for lesser setbacks. Typically, they're 15, 20, 18 feet, right around there. For example, Belagave comes to mind. In that neighborhood, I believe we allowed the houses to be 10 feet from the front property line, but the garages still needed to be set back 18 feet because you allow some room for a double driveway. The house can be closer, but the setback for the garage is typically still observed. So those are special circumstances where perhaps we have lots even smaller than 5,000 square feet. In Apache Junction, our smallest lot size, unless you're doing a planned development, is 5,000. Of course, our largest lot size is acre and a quarter. Acre and a quarter, GR, RSGR, and RS54 is typically when you find, you know, the 40-foot setbacks in the front and rear, the 20-foot setbacks on the sides. Those are the large districts, the horse properties, if you will. But the medium density zones, even in the city here and in other cities, all typically are probably between 50 and 20 on front and rear yards, and anywhere between 5 and 10 on side yards. So once again, we did a quick sampling. Did not find exceptions at this point in the 9 jurisdictions that we sampled. Be happy to answer any questions at this time. And there's other pictures in your packets of a couple of the other properties in the neighborhood that also constructed and then removed the carports. We also included the residential matrix, which shows you the setbacks in all of our zoning districts, including the zoning districts that I mentioned between, 5 and 10,000, even 20,000 for comparison.
Rudy, how long has it been there?
This particular carport, it's all been within the last couple of years since the original code compliance contact. And like I said, the person took it down initially, but then put it back up. Somebody else complained, so code went out there again.
Could it be a thing that's handled through a CUP, or is
No, it's not, doesn't appear to be a temporary structure. Metal structures typically require not only a permit, but engineering, because they're special under the building code, which typically deals with wood frame buildings. So it would either need to be a text amendment or some kind of special zoning in that neighborhood.
Rudy?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Tess.
Mr. Mayor, Rudy, sometime in the last year, you're going to have to help me here because I can't remember where it was or anything, but we had that situation in a mobile home park where everybody started building all kinds of things, and I remember you had the aerial view, remember, and everything was almost right on top of each other because everybody was building everything every which way without any permits or anything. You remember which one I'm talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did we do about that? We said we got to put a stop to that. So in the last year, we've said we've got to stop people from that. Now we're going to say, well, should we let them do this? And you can't on one hand say stop and then say, oh, well, okay.
Right, I believe that the situation you're talking about is an old, and well, not really old, but one of our parks, mobile home parks that was built, I believe in the early 2000s, that was converting to a subdivision. And yes, there were setback issues, there were structures constructed without permits, and within the context of rezoning that property and allowing for the creation of a subdivision, and because of the existing lot sizes, we reasoned that the lots would stay more or less the same size. The developers could continue to use mobile home park type of setbacks, which is typically 8 on the front, 5 on the sides and rear. And over time, we would work with the owners and people who bought lots to correct setback violations. For various reasons, that property owner has not yet applied for any permits, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, but it's still
Yes.
we're at the point where we've said you can't keep doing this.
Right, there were going to be corrections over time, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Rudy? Oh. So, a couple of things. So, the problem isn't so much these structures being built, it's the fact that they're being built inside the setback area, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
and being built without permits.
And being built, so there is an ability to legally build these if you meet the proper setbacks. You can go into planning and zoning and pull the permit for that and go through that process.
It depends on the lot.
Okay.
If there's an opportunity to build this, for example, in a rear yard, that's one of the options that we looked at in this particular example. Is there any other place on this lot where this could be built? Well, yes, maybe they can build it back here, except for the problem that this utility easement is only 12 feet wide, and you can't really see them here, but there's also power poles in that easement. That's one of the options that we looked at. There might have been opportunity to put it in a rear yard. There's very little room down the side yards to try and maneuver a vehicle. This house is pretty much built setback to setback. So unfortunately, there doesn't appear to be opportunity on this particular lot to locate it elsewhere, but in other lots, that is a possibility.
Okay, so about how many, and you may or may not know this, how many of these are current code cases that we're dealing with right now?
Well, there's been at least 3 in the last year or so. I don't know if there's other ones hanging out there?
Yeah, I think 3 right in this particular vicinity. I know there's probably more out there that we're doing complaint basis, so we're not really driving around looking for these. The other ones are the kind of the more PVC, where you get the plastic and you do the hoop
Right.
structure out in the front yard. So Most of these seem to occur when folks close in their garage, and they make living space out of the garage, sometimes with or without permits. But now that they don't have a garage, now they want shade on their vehicle, and then they don't have the setback. So that's the common occurrence, is where they filled in the garage, and now they want to shade the vehicle.
What
I
was
don't
the
know if that's the
specific-
case here. I'd have to look at the packet to see from the street view if this had been a house where they filled in the garage.
Can we
as
was
see
living
the
the
street
space.
view
specific-
map? I'm sorry.
Rudy, was one of these part of this a garage that was closed in?
If you look at the images in your packet, we do have a front view of this particular house.
Matt, can we get the different views if possible, please?
This is the,
Thank you.
so oops, sorry.
Is it one of these?
No, it's not in there. We're gonna have to do the overhead, I think, because if he doesn't have the packet, then.
Open that one.
I mean, my question was, he did have a garage then, and they closed it in. So they originally was built to have a place to park,
Your Honor.
and they chose to make it living space.
To these pictures, it looks like there's both scenarios here.
Right.
One with a perfectly active garage, and the other looks as if it's been transformed. And the one that looks like it's been transformed looks like it's more of a makeshift model as opposed to the one that is not.
It's a great image right there.
So this is the house in question. There is a garage door there. The house did originally have looks like a single garage. What's happening behind that garage door, we don't know. Is that now a room? Is that garage still there? We don't know.
What was the square footage? This looks like
About
it
400.
belongs in an industrial area. What was the 400 something you said?
Of the awning, yes, it's about, once again, using our measuring tool, it's about 474 square feet.
And this is the one they took down but put back up.
Yeah.
What was the specific complaint, Rudy?
Somebody complained that somebody had built something without a permit.
Wonder how they would know.
Whatever the other background context was, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was just a complaint that code
They might
complaints.
have got away with it. It was a little, that looks ridiculous. I wouldn't want to be a neighbor. I mean, that belongs in an industrial business area. That,
Being in real estate, I've seen this in many older neighborhoods.
it's bigger than the house.
When, in the 70s, we built a lot of two-bedroom, one-bath houses, and people want that third bedroom. They make the carport their bedroom. Sometimes they leave the garage doors, so it still looks like a garage
Yeah.
door, but it's really a room, and sometimes they put windows there. The fact that, I mean, to allow something like this, it's like, why do you have any front yard standards anywhere? Just,
Do
why
anything.
not make it a free-for-all and let anybody build what they want to build? In this, in the additional pictures, you can see, and that one's a much newer house, that there's clearly a two-car garage there with another structure coming off of that. Oh, I'm sorry.
And that one there is actually an 1.25 acre lot.
And
They've
that's
got
what I
tons of
thought,
room.
looking at it.
It's a big, beautiful house, and then they start to build this metal thing in front of it.
And I'm positive they didn't have a permit before they started building it, yeah. I understand someone may have bought a house that didn't have a carport or didn't have a garage, but they knew that beforehand. They also know where the city is, that they can check and see, and not just willy-nilly build whatever they want to build, because even the one house that has the white, is it a van or a white SUV up front? That picture also shows they've got one of those PVC ones along the side, too. So it's like, is he just trying to,
In the rear yard?
100% of his property? It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a no. We have rules.
That's right.
Why would we let one person in a neighborhood encroach and change the whole dynamics of the rest of the neighborhood? I just think you know, if you want a carport, either, and especially if you have an acre and a quarter, you have a ton of place to put it. Don't put it out front. You know, I understand people use their garages for storage, but that's a personal choice. If you want to park your car in there, park your car. If you want to use it for storage, use it for storage, but you can't have both.
And Rudy, this isn't a situation where, this is not a situation where somebody moved in, the structure was there, somebody else built it prior, now they're in trouble and have to fix somebody else's mess. This is somebody that lived there, made a choice, didn't follow the rules, built it, got caught, essentially, and now they don't want to make it right.
And then thumb their nose at us.
Right.
But I'm asking,
Well,
correct?
my
They
understanding is-
didn't buy into this situation, they created it.
Right. My understanding is, in speaking with the gentleman, that he and his son basically traded houses. The parents were looking to downsize, perhaps the son was looking to upsize. So the dad bought, or actually hasn't bought this house, or aren't in the, completely transacting the property yet. But yeah, it's the dad who moved in and, you know, realized Arizona is hot in the summertime, I'd sure like a carport.
I mean, I agree kind of with Gail's point. As somebody who has taken over their house from their parents, I mean, I knew full well that when I did that, I didn't have a carport or a garage. I remember we closed it in. I think that is the buyer's choice to understand what they're getting in that. And am I correct in that staff is recommending that we actually do look at allowing these?
No.
No?
No.
Talk about the
What it
process.
is,
yeah.
what it is someone has come to me and has asked, so I decided to bring it up to all of us to go to a direction to staff.
Okay.
To determine if we wanted to or not.
Right, because I agree. I mean, I think personally that, I think like Krista said, the situation's different if somebody buys a house and it's already there and they're inheriting a potential problem they may not have known about, as opposed to somebody going in and building this and not following and checking the proper procedures. Those are definitely vastly different things, so.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Biggs, staff, if you want, we can bring this back to you at your meeting on January 18th for possible direction to staff or not.
Your Honor, isn't it true, though, true, Rudy, that,
Mike,
is that better? I think it's broken. Better? Now, does it work? Thank you. So Rudy, you said that there were other neighbors, correct, that had done something similar. Now, whether or not it was this massive, I don't know, but they were told that it did not fit code compliance and they took it down, correct?
Ma'am.
Okay. 2 people, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I'm in agreement with pretty much what everybody else is saying up here. We have rules, that's the rule. Other people follow the rules. You just have to follow the rules. I don't see a need that we need to change anything on this.
Me neither.
Your Honor, that's why we put it on here, just to get some perspectives before we even considered even putting it on for direction to staff.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes?
did you have a different opinion? What was your thought in bringing this? Did you maybe have a
Well,
different opinion?
my thought was, because he talked to me about it and the aspects on it and was showing me, what it was and what the problem was. And our rules are that you can't do that. And I said, well, the only way that, what Rudy said, the different alternatives were, and what seemed as being I'll say the best alternative to have the best results, for him in the aspect was to go this route. And, he still has the options of doing the others as well. But it was something that I felt, okay, I'm one of you all, and I wanted the rest of you all to be involved into this and making a decision on whether or not that we give a direction to staff to come in and do it. And, I understand his dilemma is that he, doesn't want his car being exposed to the sun. And it's something that, a lot of us like to have that abilities. I myself don't have that, but it'd be nice to build one, but, but, any aspect it is something that I understand the advantages to it. I understand what he was asking, and so I wanted the rest of city council to look at it.
Thank you. I just didn't know if you had a different perspective that we weren't
No.
catching.
Yeah.
I have, Rudy, if I may, Your Honor, can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Would it be a different story if he had one of those kits? I guess he wants to park his car, those little things you buy at Costco or whatever, you park. Would it be a different story than this here, or the same scenario? It's in the,
Those portable shade structures are typically about 200 square feet. And they're not, they tend to fall apart after a couple of years, but typically those should not encroach in setbacks either.
okay. So it wouldn't matter. If he got a kit, he'd be in the same,
Right.
he's in a situation where, okay.
Your Honor,
Yes,
I think he should go back to using his garage. He's got one.
if possible. Anyone else want to comment?
I
Okay,
don't see the need to change anything.
all right, so we will move on. Okay, presentation, discussion, and, okay, I have lost my place. There we are. Presentation and discussion on employment agreements for the associate magistrate and judicial assistant. Judge.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. It's my honor to request that tomorrow you approve the employment agreements for two outstanding additions to the court. Sylvia Turin as judicial assistant and Michael McVeigh as part-time associate magistrate. We solicited statewide, including also the League of Arizona Towns and Cities, the Arizona Women Lawyers Association, and Los Abogados, which is the Hispanic Bar Association, in addition to the postings on the city websites. The process has been intentionally transparent. I came to you months ago expressing the need to fill both positions. You changed the city code to properly allow for both positions. You gave me your power to select, subject to your final decision in this matter to approve the selections. I intentionally brought in a court outsider to keep the interview process open and transparent so the council could be confident that this wasn't another case of a judge hiring a buddy, as in the past may have occurred, and I've heard complaints that it has occurred in the past. So I invited Beth Kunstler, administrative assistant to the city manager, as my co-interviewer. Extensive sets of interview questions were used, asking for points to be assessed to each answer. The selections were unanimous. The point differentials between the candidates for each position were remarkably similar. Each candidate scored over 20% higher than the next highest candidate for each position. I intentionally chose Ms. Kunstler for her prior background, which involved extensive corporate interview experience, to have a non-court employee to bring a common sense analysis to the process, and to show you that the process was transparent, objective, and fair. Mr. McVeigh's experience and reputation is far better than anything we could have hoped for. He's a former city, county, and state prosecutor, followed by 20 years as a Superior Court judge in Maricopa County. He's been a presiding judge of different departments of different divisions of Superior Court during that time. He's also a law professor, and he's taught attorneys and judges, including myself over the years, criminal law and procedure at continuing legal education seminars for attorneys and judges. Ms. Turin has 12 years administrative experience with Coca-Cola, followed by 21 years experience with the Chandler Municipal Court System. She had letters from a retired judge, a current judge in Chandler, a Chandler Court probation officer, and a prosecutor from Chandler, and additionally from the town of Queen Creek, where she has been an active member of the town of Queen Creek's Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee for the past 10 years. Mr. McVeigh and Ms. Turin will be outstanding additions to the court and to the city of Apache Junction, where they will both have extensive contact with court customers of all types. They're present tonight in the back. We have Mr. McVeigh in the back, and Ms. Turin is present as well. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have, and I respectfully request that tomorrow you approve their hiring and authorize me to sign the contracts that I have submitted for your review. Both Mike and Sylvia are looking forward to serving our city starting on January 3rd. Ms. Turin will immediately receive 2 weeks of judicial training in January, along with myself. I'm open to any questions anyone may have.
They want to come up, say hands.
I have a question. Could you remind us of the cost savings? I know there was some kind of
Well,
cost savings. It's been a while.
It was going to be a full-time position for the judge, but we went part-time with no benefits. So that's saving $55,000 plus the 30% cost of benefits for $100,000. So that's quite a bit of savings there. The judicial assistant position was already accounted for before, so that's just replacing what would have been a management analyst, and now it's becoming a judicial assistant with more powers.
Thank you. It's just been a while, and the numbers, you know.
Yeah, but saving is probably at least 50,000 plus, probably $80,000 on the judge position alone.
Okay, thank you.
And it'll be kind of a wash on the other position.
Anyone else over here? Yes, Gail?
Okay, I think my question is more for Bryant. On the associate magistrate, so that's a part-time position, and it's a contract position.
That's correct.
Do we have any other contracted part-time people? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
And this is,
Occasionally, we'll use a contract, so the answer to that is yes.
well, my question was in reading under 4A, where it says any cost of living increase or base wage adjustments received by other career employees over the term, payment of said salary shall be made at the same time and blah, blah, blah. That's all okay. But is that typical that the step increases in that would come with a part-time position? It's just
Right, I
something
think
that-
what you're getting at. Yeah, most of the time, and maybe Matt can help you on this, but for those that we've done, we probably wouldn't have had that. But this is a little bit more of a unique situation we have here in the court that
Well,
we've
it
never
is.
done. So I actually support that language
Okay.
in this one, yeah.
Well, and that's what I wanted to know, but I did question it
Yeah.
because it just seemed odd to have a contract position that was only part-time, but yet to have the full-time step, because our normal part-time people don't get all of that type of
We have to either work that through in the budget process. And, I'm thinking of like a Frank Blanco, remember Frank? So we have him available on contract, and it's a different need, right, in the
Right.
organization. So we probably wouldn't have written that in that contract. But I recommend it for this one because it's more of
You
a,
recommend it for this, that's fine.
Correct.
It was just something that I questioned as I was reading through it, so, thank you.
Your Honor. So Judge, I understand that there's a potential cost savings going from a full-time position regarding the associate magistrate to a part-time position. I'm a little concerned, though, in how we got these figures. From looking this over, this is going to be the associate magistrate position is a part-time position at 19 hours a week with a salary of $55,000. And then the full-time position, a salary of $74,000. That's basically $130,000. It's $129,000 for two positions. At 19 hours a week for $55,000, that's $55 or $56 an hour.
It's about what they get for pro tems within Pinal County and Maricopa County. That's kind of the going rate. And let me remind you, you're getting somebody that's worth far more than that. He's gotten 4 times that as a Superior Court judge, including benefits. And we're getting him for a quarter of the cost. We're getting half the time for a quarter of the cost.
And there are no benefits in this because
There's
it's
no
a part-time
benefits. It's
position.
just a straight salary, and it works up to 19 hours a week on the average.
Okay. That makes sense then.
Yeah, but it's $55, $60 an hour. Some places go as low as maybe 50. In some of the small towns and in the outer reaches of the state, there's sometimes 40, 45 an hour for justice of the peace pro tems who don't have to be attorneys. But pretty much all the decent municipal courts that have judge pro tems, it's usually at least 50 and it's gone up to 55 or 60 in most places over the past few years. So it's usually in a 50 to 60 range for that. And I think this worked out to about 55 an hour, I think,
Right,
if I
yeah.
did the math right.
So this person's, they will actually be working 19 hours every week?
Oh,
They're not
yes.
going to be fluctuating in hours and still getting that salary?
Well, there's going to be some fluctuation, because like the 2 weeks Sylvia and I have to go to judicial training, he'll be there full-time. So there'll be some weeks he's not there to average it out, because we can't go over 19 hours a week, because then we got the problems with the Arizona State Retirement System about needing to do contributions and that type of thing. So it has to stay at 19 hours a week or less to save the city that cost and not have to pay for the state retirement,
Got it.
and then have to pay for other benefits that city employees would get if they're considered
Yeah.
more than part-time.
Understood. Thank you.
But we'll get our money's worth out of him, I guarantee you.
No, that
He's
explanation.
a hard worker, and he'll do what he needs to do.
Well, the explanation of the pro tem rates and everything, definitely, it does help, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Tomorrow.
presentation and discussion on ordinance number 1518, a proposal rezoning of planned development requested by Curtis Hundra of Keystone Homes. Nicholas.
Mr. Mayor, Rudy will come.
Yeah, so Rick,
come up and do this, please.
Rudy will be able to do this.
Okay.
Rudy, is this the presentation,
sick.
this,
COVID.
this top one? Is that the
Yes,
right one?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a large file, so it'll take a second.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, once again, Rudy Esquivas, Planning Manager. This is a rezoning request by a group of folks who want to create a project called the Havenly. It is a 166-unit standalone units rental type of project. Just a little bit of background in this case. We originally took it to our Planning and Zoning Commission back in July. The Planning and Zoning Commission, after hearing concerns from the neighbors, continued it a couple of months, requesting the applicants to come back with a traffic analysis. And by the way, the main concerns that we heard had to do with traffic, had to do with true stories, congestion, things of that sort. And then we also brought it to the City Council, who also continued it for a couple of months. And on November 23rd, we took it back to P&Z for a public hearing. And after hearing from the applicants, after hearing from staff, after hearing from folks in the neighborhood, both for and against the request, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-3 to recommend approval of the rezoning, subject to conditions that are contained in the draft ordinance that's attached to the staff report. The property is a 15-acre property, more or less, 15 gross acres at the southwest corner of Royal Palm and Superstition Boulevard, just a little bit east of City Hall. As a matter of fact, you can see the corner of City Hall right in here. The zoning map shows us that to the east of the property is large lot GR, to the south is large lot GR, but there is some commercial zoning in the neighborhood. There is some pre-existing multifamily zoning in the neighborhood, and very close, like within a quarter mile of our downtown area. The downtown area is Zone B3, City Center District. There was a project approved here, kitty corner to the site, a number of years ago, which was never built. They're waiting for sewer extension, and actually recently we've been talking to these folks too. But there is some multifamily in the neighborhood. Most recently, a low-income housing tax credit project is very interested in this property as well. Of course, the new Fry Center is right here. So kind of a mix of different zonings in the neighborhood. Our general plan, land use map, shows that this is all part of our downtown mixed use designated area. The downtown mixed use, because you wanted to try and create density close to your shopping areas, does allow for multifamily. So therefore, this rezoning request does not represent any kind of an amendment to the general plan. It's within what the general plan could allow in the mixed-use designation. It's on the edge, Royal Palm. That mixed-use designation goes all the way to Royal Palm, a little bit north of Superstition, down to Old West Highway and farther west. So the applicants did conduct their traffic impact analysis. They held an additional neighborhood meeting. And after they got the results of their traffic impact analysis and further neighborhood meetings, they came back and they updated their plan from what they had shown originally back to us back in July. They updated their wall design, they created their entry monument, they created a multi-use trail specifically to include use by horses. They have removed the two-story buildings, and they have removed a second ingress-egress access point on Royal Palm. The original plan had proposed to have an entrance on Royal Palm as well as an entrance on Royal Palm. Their traffic study showed that if they only had one main entrance on Superstition, that the service levels would not increase significantly be affected. So basically, the entrance on Royal Palm is now proposed to be a crash gate only, like an emergency gate if police or fire should need to get in or out of there, in a hurry. The other thing that the new plan shows, which differs from the original plan, is that there is now a deceleration lane, an eastbound deceleration lane coming into the development. This is a gated development, by the way. The 10-foot multi-use trail is included on Superstition and also down Royal Palm, in addition to sidewalk, pedestrian sidewalk, and extensive landscaping. They have changed their fencing and their entry monumentation to include a more rural design, allow for more view fencing, more neighborhood-friendly fencing as opposed to just solid walls up and down the street. They're proposing signage which would yield to horses and also horse crossings here at the corner of Royal Palm and Superstition. If you go north of Superstition, you're basically into the state lands, BLMs, the horse trails, I forget what you call them, the crossovers in the fence to allow for horses to step over and access the trails. So they've added a couple of horse amenities to their design. And once again, here's illustrations of how the new fencing might look, and how the cross-section of the multi-use trail. And this is right-of-way, this is sidewalk, there's a little barrier here, there's the horse trail, there's the subdivision wall, there's extensive landscaping. This is a concept drawing of the intersection of Royal Palm and Superstition. Of course, it allows for wheelchair ramps, pedestrian sidewalks, and also the multi-use trail is right in here. It is not a hard surface, it's not asphalt, it's not concrete, it's a horse-friendly type of trail. Once again, a horse crossing here at the intersection. And the exit on the secondary access point is more towards the south side of the property. You can't really see it here, well, not too well, but anyway, there's a gate right in here, and obviously we don't want bushes or anything like that. You need some kind of ground surface that will support fire apparatus, not necessarily concrete, not necessarily asphalt, but maybe several inches of DG to support a fire truck, and this would be proposed to be emergency access only. This is an illustration of what that gate might look like, some of the enhanced fencing as well. And they're proposing also a ramp for horses, which would line up with the horse ranch across the street. And I think the secondary access point is a little farther south than this, but also acknowledging the horse boarding property across the street so they can access the horse trail easily. Once again, the previous fencing concept, the newer fencing concept, more open, more rural, more western, if you will. Once again, previous wall concept, new wall concepts, enhanced walls, decorative brick, pedestrian gates, additional decorational elements. So, Planning and Zoning Commission voted in favor of the ordinance by a vote of 4-3. If you read the conditions in the staff report, they did change the conditions a little bit. On the night of the public hearing, the applicant came in with a couple of additional recommended conditions, and those in your draft ordinance appear as conditions 12 and 13. Number 12 had to do with prior to the execution of any lease, prospective tenants shall provide given written disclosure on their lease and in a separately signed disclosure statement for the signature of each buyer acknowledging that the development is located adjacent to ranchette, horse properties. Such uses are legal, should be expected to continue. Animal privileges may cause adverse noise, odors, and other externalities. Once again, just basically ignoring, informing the folks that it's horse country. It's horse country all the way around you, so don't move in and, complain about it. Number 13, all leases at the development shall provide that all questions, concerns, complaint, and any tenant may have about the existing ranchette, animal privileges, agricultural property shall be solely directed to property manager or owner of the development, not to the city. So in other words, give management of the development the first chance to mitigate any issues. This is what it is. This is a rural area. This is the reality of, of this development. And in addition to that, there was a lot of questions about, so there's a horse trail. What happens if the horse does its business on the horse trail? Who's going to clean up after it? So condition number 14 basically acknowledges that maintenance shall be an ongoing responsibility of the development, their landscape team, whoever it may be. Staff is of course amenable to the Planning and Zoning Commission. However, because this is in the downtown mixed-use area and because you want density, we think you want density close to your downtown, your emerging downtown. The other thing that the new plan did is it basically did away with some of the two-story units. There's 166 units proposed. I think 14 of those were proposed to be two-story units. Staff, from our point of view, we don't have an issue with the two-story units. And we also believe that the two ingress-egress points as opposed to the one ingress-egress point is better. Two's better than one. If you push all of the traffic out on Superstition, the logic is Superstition would become more congested as opposed to having the two access points, and I'm sure that our applicant will bring their traffic engineer tomorrow to explain the service levels. I'm not a traffic engineer, that's not my area of expertise, but we also plan to have our own city engineer at the meeting tomorrow in case you get into those types of questions. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to answer your questions.
Your Honor,
Yes.
Rudy, I have two questions. There's two ingress egress, but one of them has a crash gate.
Yes,
Therefore, you still only have one ingress egress.
correct.
Okay. Second question is, after all these the people coming back and making all these changes, and all the years I was on P&Z, I very seldom saw developers come back and be willing to make as many changes as they did.
Right.
Why did 3 people still vote no?
For the same reasons, the congestion, the density, the proximity to the low-density properties and the equestrian lifestyle, the types of arguments that we've heard in many rezoning cases. People don't like change, and when it's more dense change, that seems to raise people's emotions even more. Like I said, not all of the comments were against it. Folks from our Chamber of Commerce are very much in favor of it. They want to see people in our downtown to hopefully spur business. But the neighborhood opposition was still quite present.
So there is opposition from the neighborhood.
Yes.
Considerable?
I would say that probably more of the comments were against than for. Altogether, we had maybe a dozen people speak.
So just a dozen people complained, or, I mean,
Well,
it's
not all
like,
of them. I'd say maybe 3 or 4 of those were in favor. The rest of them, I think, were against.
Yeah, but, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Yes.
Thanks. Rudy, that was one of my questions, was what the difference on the P&Z was, but the other question was, this material that's put down for the horses, I think I know what it is, But I'm just curious, is it bicycle friendly? For people to ride their bicycles on it as well? I'm just curious.
I believe it's basically DG, maybe compacted DG.
So one of the things that, we just went through the American Trails, and they had a Black Friday sale, so I bought this book that Chip knows all about. It's on equestrian trails, and there's a local author, I can't remember her name. So it was free, so I ordered it, because it was, they were trying to unload them. And basically, it counted for DG, but I think we're gonna follow, what the national standards are for equestrian trails. But in theory, a horse should be able to use it. It might be some sort of composite material.
Yeah.
So if you just use DG, I think you're gonna kind of start digging a little trenches, but I know in the north part of Scottsdale, they have an equestrian community. They've kind of refined how they're doing these. So in theory, someone in a wheelchair is gonna use a sidewalk, but if they have a little bit bigger tires, I think they could probably roll on this as well. Just to go back, I don't know if Chip, if you wanted to, Mayor, if you
I was
wanted to.
just gonna comment on that, is what I've seen these before, they put in, yes, the bike can go on it. Now, mind you, if you got a very narrow bicycle tire on it, it may cause a little bit of problems, but the bigger tires on it, we have no problems whatsoever.
One of the, and maybe to try to answer Councilmember Nesser's question, but I can't speak for the 3 commissioners that voted no. If you look at this map, there's not a lot of downtown urban residential yet. This is really the first project. So the first project that comes in might get more scrutiny than ones down the line. It is on the end, ultimately, I think if you watch the video of the Plan Commission, there was a recognition that this is the voters approved, that this is the edge of our downtown. If you look at the zoning map, a lot of what's in the downtown is RSGR, a large acre. But you also note what Rudy pointed out to the RM2, that's the 40 units an acre. So Rudy can answer this better than me, but I'm guessing that was there in 1978. The city has not gone out and rezoned this since we incorporated. So as the city became a city, much of this zoning is a holdover from the county, and people would be surprised to know that there's 15 acres of RM2 zoning that's been here for a long time. There is a project that Rudy noted that's gone through the State Department of Housing for 95 housing units here that are not, I'll just call it, it's going to be more like Apache Villa, that there'll be a certain, most percentage will be folks over 55, but it's a tax credit project. There's a lot of RM2 that would surprise you that's out there. So I think from the Plan Commissioners, as I sat there for the long meeting, was, hey, this is really the first project. They weren't like maybe expecting it quite yet, or that there is a lot of development pressure we're seeing north of Baseline. So, but I think all in all, and some of them, when it comes, you've done it yourself, the vote comes to the vote, and you got to make a vote, so.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
So, I mean, they've really made some changes to accommodate the equine area there. I'm saying 166 lots, and you had 14 two-stories. I mean, you almost wonder what the purpose behind that is. Are there particular lots that are designated for these 2 stories, or could it be, 1, 2, 3, 4, right out the front, 2-story?
No, they were all interior to the project, if I can pull up the site plan. So they didn't designate them per se, but all of them were not at the boundary or the perimeter. They were all interior to the project. I don't know where that other site plan is, Rudy, but
Two-story units were the more family conducive 3-bedroom.
3 bedrooms.
I think most of the rest of the units are probably 1 and 2 bedrooms.
Is it, was that an issue of contention at the meeting, as far as having the 2 stories there?
No, I mean, the developer has said, okay, we didn't go to the neighborhood meetings.
Well, no.
There was
the
some
P&T
concern.
meeting, was it like, hey, when you had the guys come up, when you had the public come up, hey, we don't want 2 stories so close to the mountain, we don't like the idea of that.
I don't
think the
really think I
developer-
heard that from the neighbors, no.
I think the developer offered that is something
As
they,
the-
yeah, I think they voluntarily did that.
Correct.
And they can answer that one tomorrow themselves.
And we're just saying from a staff perspective, if you have 14 out of 126 and they're all central to the project, it's not like you're going to have someone looking in your backyard.
Right.
So we're okay with it. Ultimately, it's however you
So
guys
it's kind
vote
of those
tomorrow
two
night.
things that instead of, our recommendation is the two ingress, egress, and then the 14.
Yes, and again, the neighbors for the second egress, the traffic study didn't say, get rid of the second egress. It was more of a concession to the neighbors. Are headlights gonna come out when you come out of that entrance? Are they gonna shine across the street? Is there gonna be more traffic on Royal Palm? From a neighborhood perspective, the neighbors would like to see the traffic all go out on the north. From a planner's perspective, to me, the more you disperse the traffic, it's not coming all out at one intersection. I think the neighbors have a valid perspective. And again, it's not a make or break for us, but we suggest that to us, it's better to disperse the traffic than just have it all come out at one.
Your Honor. I agree. I did actually, for the first meeting when this came up, I happened to attend that meeting, but then I did watch this one online, and would agree with the neighbors, you know, in that second egress, really kind of having a lot of those concerns. I think the developer making that change, while I understand it provides better opportunity for traffic flow and things like that, I really do like the fact that that second entrance is the crash gate and everything there. With the two-story units, though, if we went with staff's recommendation of allowing those to stay in there, would the developer be able to go back in and add them back into the plan then?
I believe so.
Even if
Because
we're
they weren't
going,
really designated on the plan, so it's really which model you put in there.
even if we're going, I believe the recommendation, if we could pull that back up, just so I could read that again, please.
Oh, at the end, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Even with the recommendation that we stick with the 722 site plan, was that on the 722 site plan?
No, I think we're looking at, was it a October 28th site plan, I think is the recommendation. So
Is
you
the
could
all
just
one
qualify.
stories?
Yes, but also it qualified the way the horse trail, so when you're looking at the motion using the updated site plan, that's what the Plan Commission wanted to do, that's what their recommendation was. If you want to amend that to say, yes, you can have, it's that site plan, but you're gonna allow 3, 5, up to 14 two-story, you would make that as part of your motion if you want to do that. But that site plan that's referenced in the Plan Commission ordinance version includes all the amenities that and upgrades that the developer was proposing.
Well, I'm going to throw out there that there was a lot of voiced opinion concerning the two-story buildings that were addressed under private.
Well, that's a lot of my point. If you had 166 and, okay, we've got plans for 40 to 50, okay, but 14, I mean, it's almost like, what's the point? Is it just a point to have 25-foot high structured
No,
homes
I
in the
think the
middle?
developer was looking at a variety of models. What they originally proposed was to have some articulation in the roof rather than everything being one story.
And to have
And-
more families, right, to have more.
Yeah.
And it was for the 3-bedroom units.
And these are rental units as well, correct?
Correct. They're similar to the Hamptons 3, similar to what we're seeing at Villas on Superstition. So it's all one big parcel with 166 total units. And just like the one that also was a month and a half ago for 204 units over at Broadway and Tomahawk off of Old West Highway. So that is also the same product, the same, single-family rental. But we also looked at it, again, in the downtown, do you need some gradation to the east? You can build a taller building in the RSGR. Frankly, the setback in a RSGR is 35 feet. A two-story building might get you to 28. So it's less than what the RSGR height allows. Previously, whether all the council agreed or not, but there is a project on Old West Highway adjacent to Royal Palm subdivision that you allowed 3 stories. Again, that's going to be a big change, and not all of you were comfortable with it. But from our perspective, again, looking at that bigger picture, 14 units with 2 stories, not a big deal to us.
So-
Ultimately, you get to vote, so.
So Larry, even under, and I understand we inherited the zoning from prior to incorporations, but even under that zoning for the last 30-plus years, they've been allowed, you could build a 2-story building there right now, and that would be fine.
RSGR allows a 2-story, of course, yes.
Your Honor,
Yes.
just remembering about the neighborhood called Jacobs Ranch. I don't know if you're familiar with that, over off Southern and Tomahawk. It's a 500-unit, single-family residential. It actually has only one entrance and one exit. Remember, the same kind of thing was going on off of Cortez on the east. And that one is a crash gate too, right? And is this private? So I just see this
that's
kind of
a-
similar,
That's
kind of
a
a,
subdivision where you own your own lot. This is one parcel.
just some of the same issues about, just wanted to bring that, that's how it's worked. I don't know how many complaints you've had from that over the years.
Yeah, the folks that showed up at the second Plan Commission meeting talked about the speed of traffic on Royal Palm. They think there's an increase in volume, but if you live in a neighborhood, there's always speeding traffic. But they attribute it mostly to Fry's and some folks using Royal Palm as a way to, go between. The intersection is terrible enough at Broadway and Old West Highway, but there is some increase. They think, the neighbors anyway, think there's increased traffic because of the Fry's development. And it will increase when the 95 units come in and when other projects that are proposed come in. So traffic attributable to this project, I'm not going to say it's negligible, but their traffic study showed it's not if you had 166 houses, you get more trips generated out of a single-family neighborhood than you do out of multifamily. So it's not, the traffic counts aren't as much as if it were a single-family development.
Yeah.
Do you have the plat map that shows how this along Royal Palm is going to match up to the existing neighborhood?
I don't know if on the east side,
Yeah.
I guess we tried to use the aerial photo. The second gate would have come out like right in here somewhere.
Well, and that's what I was trying to see.
The other one, this is the larger horse ranch, and that's where they're gonna have the horse crossing, if you will, the mid-block crossing. The other gate was
The way
somewhere in this neighborhood.
What I was trying to figure out is what was the footage from those three and the parking up from the very corner of Royal Palm and the unit, because there's only one house there. And it looks like it's further north, but it's hard to tell from this.
Yeah, we could put Google Earth on or something if you
I
wanted
am
to see.
so
or GIS.
excited about this, to be our first project under our new general plan, and that the developer has, to me, bent over backwards with this horse trail and adding the decel lane, even though it showed he didn't have to. I don't have a problem with two-story units in the middle. It's not going to hide the mountain. I mean, that's everybody's fear, but I mean, they could be 20 stories high, and if you move 5 feet, you could still see the mountain.
Might hide the
and-
roundabout.
And I understand that we need these, in a two-story unit, takes up the same footprint as a single level, but you could have 3 or 4 bedrooms that way, where the other ones, they're gonna be limited. I like to have the variety, because that just gives us that much, a bigger variety of residents, I guess. I mean, the two-story ones aren't gonna be handicapped accessible, no. But there's plenty of other units that are single-story. I personally think of the congestion of having only one ingress and egress along Superstition, and having just an egress, like a lot of these types of subdivisions, you have one main gate that people can come and go through, but then there's a second gate where you can exit from, where you don't have to go through the main. And that's why I was trying to see where the gate itself was in relation to that house directly to the east, and how, because it looks like that house faces north, but you really can't tell. And I understand the headlight issue and that. But I'd actually like to see that other gate other than emergency just for exit, because in the morning, pulling out across Superstition, I mean, employment isn't to the east, and it's not to the north, it's to the west and to the south. But everybody's gonna have to be, you know, funneling out that one. I just wish the other entrance, or the other gate could also be an exit, not necessarily an entrance, but just an exit. And I just want to thank the developer. I think this is fabulous, and I think they bent over backwards to work with us.
Absolutely.
And I truly appreciate it.
And I will say, in watching the planning and zoning meetings, that was a big concern with the one exit off to Superstition and trying to make that left-hand turn and getting held up. And some of the concern was that they would go right on Superstition down to Tomahawk, or even take Royal Palm all the way up. And I think that was kind of the neighbors' concern about having that secondary exit or egress. So I kind of see it both ways. I mean, I think if we were to allow it, it should only be an egress. But I definitely understand the concerns from the neighbors. So I'm a little torn on that one. I'm not so much as torn on the 14 two-story units by any means. I definitely agree it's going to allow a larger variety of renters and future residents. And I too would like to echo the sentiments of Gail's in regards to the developer. I think I've been paying attention for a long time, and I've never seen a developer bend over backwards as much as you guys have in terms of trying to address the unique challenges of growth and building a community of a substantial size right up next to some pretty large amounts of horse property and a wide variety of zones. So thank you guys for that. I think it's a great partnership that we've been able to have here, and I personally would love to see more projects like this happen across the city. So thank you for that.
I'm going to ask one question, and it's really got, I'm going to say, whoops, excuse me, sorry about that. Nothing to do with this development. Because you've got the general plan layout right now there. How come we haven't gone into our planning and zoning and have made changes to the zoning in these areas as a city initiated?
Well, normally it relates around Proposition 207. Some cities have gone in and created like an overlay zone, like Phoenix does. Theirs is optional. So they say, here's this great zoning we created. You can use the zoning you have, or if we are trying to build towards a different type of downtown Phoenix, here's an option that you can use. That way it's not mandatory. If we're going to do a rezoning, the city has done rezonings, and then I think we're notifying a lot of people they have a right to object. And as you may know, for the first few years after 2014, we did some, I don't know what to call them, unzonings, but corrective rezonings, where in the greater, you know, you want your general plan to be consistent with your zoning. So as the city moves forward, yes, we could do a zoning initiative, but someone can object, and then we'd be right back here, and we'd be looking at whether there would be an inverse condemnation, a takings claim. So it is, again, the other part of this is we've had discussions about updating, doing a downtown master plan. Is you want to get the property owners involved in that process, so then you'd say, okay, the next step is a rezoning. So if you have an open process where you involve the community, involve the property owners, and say, then they may sign a Prop 207 waiver at the front end, and then we could do rezoning. Otherwise, it's just, we're going to do rezonings as people make applications. Ideally, you'd have broader consensus on what the zoning ought to be in the downtown. We just don't have it here yet.
Okay.
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's a beautiful project. I'm excited. I think it looks great. I think it's a good fit, and change is hard. I mean, it is in that area, obviously.
Well, I think it's a good transition point in between the rural on the east side to what we're looking for is to on the west side of this for Royal Palm. So I think it's a good transition between the two.
And to be honest with you, one of the reasons we moved it out to Royal Palm was because of the amount of RM2 zoning. And you can see on this map, there's more of it east of Royal Palm. And if they come in tomorrow at 40 units an acre, they have the zoning. So I think from a planning perspective, Royal Palm makes good sense for the city, but just so future residents know, anything that is the dark brown on the map, they can go in and start, acquiring properties, putting 1 or 2 or 3 properties together, and the RM2 zoning allows up to 40 units an acre. So development could happen out there that's not quite in the downtown, but they have zoning already. So.
Any other questions? Looking forward to it tomorrow. Okay. So now I get to go to D, adjourn. I'm going to adjourn. Thank you.